Ho-hum, another day, another stupefying story in which someone's alleged human rights and feelings have actually trumped that which is known as public safety. In this day and age of reasonable accommodation run amok, we are constantly reminded that the one caveat that trumps all when it comes to such accommodation, reasonable or otherwise, is public safety. But that was then and this is now, because apparently even public safety must take a back seat to hurt feelings. I speak of a case involving a nurse at a Waterloo, Ontario long-term care facility, only identified in legal records as DS. In a Canada.com story, it was reported that for 2 years, DS had been stealing opioids for her own use while falsifying medical records in order to conceal the thefts. It was unclear if she was shorting her patient's medication in order to facilitate her personal consumption. Regardless, this is not the kind of nurse you want on duty, I should think. And so it was that DS was shown the door. I mean, we are talking about workplace theft here, and not theft of pens and pencils, but theft of a potentially deadly substance. Indeed, when you hear that there's an opioid crisis in Canada, that's not hype. Almost 4,000 Canadians died to opioid abuse in 2017 alone. But get this, folks, a Labour arbitrator has ordered that the regional municipality of Waterloo must give DS her job back. Oh, and not just that, but she must also be compensated financially for her unfair dismissal, a package that includes general damages for, quote, injury to dignity, feelings, and self-respect, end quote. The reason for this bizarre ruling is the arbitrator concluded that her addiction to opioids is a disability. The story notes that an expert hired by the region, Lori Resnick, a professor of psychiatry at the University of Toronto, testified that addiction is not a disease, but more like a bad habit. But Resnick's view was rejected by the arbitrator in favor of the views of two other experts who testified that addiction should be seen as a health condition. You know, I've got a very bad habit too. Namely, I've been playing the lottery a lot in recent years. Those bloody numbers never seem to come up, but I keep wagering despite the odds and the stupid superstitious belief that the day I stop is indeed the day those numbers are drawn. I used to think this was merely a bad habit too. Now I'm wondering if I can park in the handicap spots, given that apparently I'm suffering from a disability. Yet, would you feel comfortable with a nurse like that on duty? Someone who, once again, could gain access to opioids? Isn't that kind of like giving the pyromaniac his job back at the fireworks factory? But before you answer, folks, consider her dignity and feelings and self-respect. The Labour arbitrator sure did. The DS saga reminds me of the human rights case that was chronicled by our very own Ezra Levent a decade ago. Namely, Bina Dat was a McDonald's employee in Vancouver who claimed that she had developed a skin condition that prevented her from washing her hands. Now, that's pretty much a non-starter if you're handling food that will be sold to the public. What's more, McDonald's has long dined out on its commitment to hygiene as a marketing tool. Indeed, check out this circa 1970 McDonald's ad.
Grab a bucket and mop, scrub the bottom and top. There is nothing so clean as my burger machine. With a broom and a brush, clean it up for the rush. Before you open the door, or to shine on the floor. When we finish one dance, start all over again. Tell me, what does it mean? At McDonald's it's clean.
But alas, when Miss Dat continued to refuse to wash her hands, McDonald's had no other choice but to let her go. Well, cue that squadron of wannabe white knights known as the British Columbia Human Rights Tribunal. They were oh so keen to rush to the defense of this dirty damsel in distress. After hearing Dat's case, the tribunal declared that this McDonald's employee indeed had the human right not to wash her hands, even working in the McDonald's kitchen. McDonald's was ordered to reinstate Dat and pay her more than $50,000. As well, the tribunal noted that Dat should be accommodated by being given another job in the organization where hand washing isn't essential. But that's the rub. McDonald's doesn't have any position at its restaurants that don't require hand washing. I think this is called a catch-22, but just as a tie goes to the runner in baseball, it would appear that a Human Rights Commission feels that its edicts should trump the law of the land in case some delicate flower should end up with, God forbid, hurt feelings. Bottom line, both the DS and the DAT cases are matters of public safety. Who could have guessed that labor arbitrators and human rights commissioners would care more about the self-esteem of an individual than the well-being of society at large? But welcome to the so-called new normal, folks. A bizarre biosphere being engineered by bureaucrats on the taxpayer tab, idealistic paper pushers who obviously know better than the rest of us. For the Rebel.media, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, you can listen to all Rebel shows as a podcast. Please go to the Rebel.media/listen.